Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. All right, ladies, I have another great iTunes review of the week. This one is brought to you by Mojo on the Island. And it reads, I am almost 60 years old and have spent probably 50 years worrying about my weight. I just listened to one of Kim's podcasts and loved her advice and outlook. I wish I could have heard this years ago, but looking forward to listening to more and changing my attitude. Oh, Moy on the Island. This is exactly why I do this podcast, because so many of us have been wrapped around the axle about diet and exercise for decades, and we are done. We are sick of it. And I am so grateful that you are able to find me, and I am grateful that I'm able to help you shift your mindset around what diet and exercise looks like for the next best half of your life. So if you have listened to this podcast and you love what you are hearing, please do the same thing. Leave me a review. I absolutely love hearing them. I love reading them. And it just gives me that pat on the back that I am giving you what you need to hear. Now, if you're stuck with I don't know how to do this, I don't listen to iTunes, do me a favor, hit me up. I will definitely help you, walk you through how to leave that review. So you can find me on Instagram at Kim Jefferson Coach, or you can shoot me an email, hello@kimbarnesjefferson.com. All right, now on to today's episode. All right, magic makers. I get a lot of questions or I see a lot of you guys post that, hey, Kim, I'm doing everything right, but girl, nothing. I can't catch a break. Nothing seems to be changing. And you is my weight stuck? This belly fat just sits hanging on for dear life. My energy, ugh. And I don't know what to do, right? And I want you to know something right at the beginning of this episode. This probably is not because you're doing something wrong. It's probably because you're doing things, I'm going to quote, too right? You're disciplined. You're consistent. You're not winging it. And that's exactly why it's so frustrating, right? We all have this kind of badge of honor that I see so many of us ladies over 40 wearing, is that somewhere along the way, and it's not you, it's all of us, we were told that results came from deprivation, that less food, more workouts, tighter rules, push harder, that if we weren't following some gosh darn plan, we were just destined to not see any results, to see not any goals. And I want you to tell you that is just bullshit, right? Effort and effectiveness are not the same thing. Your body doesn't reward suffering. It survives it, right? It survives us beating the crap out of it for decades. And so that's why so many of you are like, I used to be so disciplined. That's why discipline stops working after 40, because back in your 20s and 30s, you could undereat and overexercise. You could get by on 2 or 3 hours of sleep, stress it was your job, and still get results. But now we hit 40, your body starts keeping score. And your body starts going, remember when? Remember this? Remember that diet? Remember that we spent 3 hours on the Stairmaster? Remember that you used to only eat rice cakes and Diet Coke? Yeah, I remember that. And I'm holding on it, and I'm not going to give you what you want. And primarily because our hormones are going buck wild. Recovery matters way more than it ever has. Stress, that is just punching you in the face. And sleep is no longer an optional thing. I remember I had a trainer told me, Kim, you'll sleep when you're dead. right? So when you keep applying your old rules to your new body, your body pushes back, not because it's broken, not because you have a slow metabolism, because it's smarter. It's trying to protect itself. It's saying, you know what? For decades, you beat the shit out of us, and we're not going to take it anymore. We are going to stand up for ourselves.
Are you asking yourself, what diet should I start? If that's your January question, this is for you. Because if January diets actually worked after 40, you wouldn't be starting over again with the same issue, same month, same diet, same plan, same freaking frustration. Here is the real issue. You are not lazy, my friend. You are not broken. You've just been taught how to diet, not for what happens after. If you're looking for that fast weight loss, think you need to push harder, more discipline, more willpower, starting over every year, that is why your results don't stick anymore. That's exactly what I'm breaking down in my free masterclass, Planning Your January Diet. We're talking about why January diets backfire after 40, why fat loss keeps coming roaring back after all of these crazy diets, why being under-muscled makes body composition even harder, why pushing harder always bites you in the ass, why strength training makes way more sense right now, and how to use the next 12 weeks to get out of the diet chaos. We're not talking foodless detox, no new year, new me nonsense. This isn't about quitting goals. It's about finally picking a smart one. If you're done chasing the fast weight loss and you're ready to build something that actually sticks, come join me. Register for the free masterclass that is happening on Thursday, January 15th. The link is in the show notes. All right, see you there.
And so here's where life gets messy, right? Life is messy at this age. You know, we have a lot more responsibilities than we did in our 20s and 30s. And I see so many of you guys getting so mad at yourself that you can't keep the same pace. And I want you to really take a hard look. I have a client and she's been with me a really long time. And when I first met her, she was 25 and she was free and single, loving to mingle. She meets her husband. She has one kid. Then she has two kids, right? Now she's a kid. Now she has three kids and her third kid has special needs. So yeah, going to the gym 2 hours a day, that ain't going to cut it. Right? You can't just be like, hey kids, I'm going to the gym for 2 hours. It doesn't work that way because you got to drive said kid to hockey or ballet or piano or whatever it is that kids need to be driven to these days, or help with homework, or hell, they like to eat and you're making dinner all the damn time. Right? So it's like we can't keep track of or keep pace with those old habits, right? The workouts that you used to crush, the meal prep routine that you had all the black containers out on the counter, right? That used to be second nature. That's not happening anymore. The energy, the energy you used to have for all of it, who can keep up, right? So guess what? You blame yourself. You don't look at your life and be like, my life is different now. You tell yourself, I'm lazy. I used to be able to do this. Why can't I keep pace with that? What's wrong with me? So you quit because you're going to find that perfect pocket of time where you can go back and do all the shit you were able to do before. But guess what? That's why you're being inconsistent. The truth is you're trying to be consistent with a plan that no longer fits your life, right? Your life has changed. Your body has changed. Your capacity for all the bullshit that you were able to do back in the day, that has changed. And so the rule book in your head, guess what? Hasn't changed. Because back in the day, you were able to do all those things and get the result. So that's not a problem, right? That's a mismatch problem. That's not a you problem. It's a mismatch problem. And that's exactly why all of us get in our heads, right? We're all thinking that, all I need is this one thing. We're reaching for that one magic solution. And that's why, we see so many supplements geared at us to say, hey, if you take this pill, drink this magic potion, run this blood test, you're going to get your energy back like you had when you were 25. And listen, I am not anti-supplement. Sure, absolutely, they can support us and data can be very helpful. But here's what nobody puts on the label. You can't out-supplement and test your way out of chronic eating and over-exercising. You can't do that, right? No powder is going to fix poor sleep if you are not setting yourself up by going to bed at a certain time. No protocol is going to cancel you being a stress ball, and no hormone hack is going to override any crack in your foundation. I talk a lot about the boring basics, right? I need to have my boring basics on lock. I need to have a really good sleep schedule. I need to be able to understand how I can best manage stress. I need to be able to understand how I can get in my protein, my fiber, and find a way of working out that supports my body versus trying to be, the Kim of the 25-year-old Kim, right? That's where it is, because women come to me all the time spending hundreds of dollars on supplements, eating 1,200 calories, sleeping 5 hours a night, and wondering why they're still exhausted. It is not a deficiency problem. That's a math problem. If discipline was the answer, you'd already be at your goal right now. And so I want to tell you about my client, Deb, right? Deb basically ate the same foods for 20 years. Yeah, same meals, same rotation, same plan. On paper, she was crushing it. But then, all right, so she's starting to approach that 55-year age, and belly fat became a thing. Her energy crashed, and the scale just stuck or kept going up. Anyone understand that? Anyone? I'm raising my hand because that was me. So she did what we all do, right? She tried harder, ate less, added more deprivation. But that's the message because that's the message we've been fed forever. And it worked for her until it didn't. In the same way for so many of us. And here's the truth, right? It's not working because she needed to be more disciplined. Deb wasn't stuck because she failed. She was stuck because her body adapted. Her body adapted to the lower amount of calories. For 20 years, she ate the same thing, right? And so it's like, we know what to do with this amount of calories. And so she never challenged it. And I always, when I was coaching girls to do fitness competitions, we were always talking about challenge them to add variety. And so many people think variety is that we're basically every meal has to be ridiculously different and you're always adding all these crazy things. But it was more about, can we shift up the rotation of food so that if every week you're buying strawberries, the next week you buy blueberries. If every week you're only having olive oil, when you run out of olive oil, you buy a different oil. So it's not, I'm not asking anyone to be like, the Martha Stewart of food, like, because that is not me. But what I'm asking is that we really don't get vapor locked into eating the same things over and over. We can eat the same pattern, but we can change things up very subtly. And then your body is like, oh, this is a different food that I have to understand. How do I digest? I tell you guys, I have a big ass salad every single day for lunch. And, that's the staple. But is it the same salad every single week? No, I change the lettuce. Sometimes I have shredded carrots. Sometimes it's shredded red cabbage. Sometimes it's shredded broccoli slaw. Sometimes I don't. I skip it all altogether. I have cucumbers. Sometimes I throw in cilantro. Like, I always throw in something a little bit different every single week, but it's not like the salad doesn't radically change. It's just I throw in something different each and every week. A lot of it is based on sometimes availability. Sometimes it's like, hey, I feel like having carrots this week, right? Whatever it is, right? Because Deb was stuck, just like many of you. It wasn't because she failed, it's because her body adapted. And it's not failure, it's biology, right? Our bodies are supersonically smart. And so when I started working with her, I said, all right, let's start to slowly change what you're eating, right? I know for many of you, you're very you're like that scared stray animal that you try to make friends with on the street. And, if I just approach you too quickly, you're going to run away. So, and I get it. Like, if you've been eating the same way for so long, you know exactly what the results you're going to get. So I'm asking you to do something a little bit different, right? So she was terrified to eat more, right? Because when she did start to eat a little bit more, the scale initially goes up. And then she overthought the shit out of everything because she had her meal plan was on lock. She knew exactly what she was eating on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so forth, right? And it felt ridiculously uncomfortable. And, I don't know how many times she's like, Kim, I really suck at trying to find maintenance. And I was like, you suck because it's not something you're used to. Like you don't, you have to think about it now. Before you've been running on autopilot for 20 years. And here's the thing that no one ever tells you about the process that, right, it's not going to be linear. It's not going to be Instagram worthy. You're not going to have this amazing before and after picture in 12 weeks. It doesn't work that way. It's messy. It F's with your head. But on the other side, right, she pushed through and her energy came back. Her clothes finally started to fit better, even though the scale didn't drop immediately. She started feeling stronger in her workouts, not because she had the perfect supplement stack, but because her body finally was like, oh, girl, you're giving me something to work with. You're finally putting some deposits back into her body versus constantly having me work on fumes. And I get Deb because I was Deb, right? And if dieting was an Olympic sport, girl, I would have a medal, right? I'm talking, I'd be on the podium, waving my roses. I lived on discipline, restriction, and control. And for myself and for a lot of clients that I work with, that control was everything. Because for many of us, we're type A people. We're type A plus plus with a sign of A plus plus. And so when I was encouraged to eat more food, it really felt like a tractor trailer trying to make a 3-point turn. I was like, I was resistant because I was like, I knew exactly what to do. And I did a little panic because everything I learned meant more food meant less control. Like I knew what I was getting, but I wasn't happy with my results. I wasn't happy with my body composition. I was doing all the right things. If you were to look at my nutrition, just like Deb, I wasn't hanging out at Chick-fil-A. I wasn't having pizza all the time. I wasn't, pounding Oreos. It just wasn't eating enough for what I was doing with the level of support I needed. And I also wasn't moving enough. I would go to the gym, but I wasn't getting 10,000 steps. All right. I wasn't even getting 8,000 steps. And so the problem with autopilot that no one talks about it is that eating more doesn't just change your calorie. It forces you out of autopilot, right? What you've eaten for the same thing for years, there's comfort in that. Yeah, I gave you a little example of how I was adding variety to my salad, but I was eating in the same portions. So I had to add a little bit more. And so it wasn't this Kim, just eat more food. It was literally just adding a little bit here and there. So on my salad, I started to add in more olives. I started to add in a sprinkle of nuts, right? So it was just like little things that slowly upped my calorie game, right? And so when you're in this place and you've eaten the same thing for years, you don't have to think, right? You don't have to decide. You know exactly what to do. And honestly, that's why Deb and I both had the same problem, right? Because suddenly you're now being asked, what the hell am I going to eat? How much is enough? Can I trust myself here? And the mental work feels harder than restriction because you know how to restrict, but to expand, whew, that was some stuff, right? Because it didn't require me to make any decisions. Autopilot feels safe. And even if it's the very thing that's keeping you stuck, right? So we both knew we get the same thing by doing the same thing, right? You do the same thing, you get the same thing. Predictable results, familiar frustration, but I still had my control. And so shifting out of that mindset was hard as fuck. And I've slowly come to realize that you can't always be on a diet. All right. This is the part that no one talks about, right? You can always, there has to be a rhythm. You have to find a way to add some deposits back to your body. And at some point, your body needs something to work with, right? You can't starve yourself past your hormones. You can't out cardio stress. You can't ignore sleep and expect fat loss to cooperate. Like consistency without adjustment becomes stagnation. And doing the same thing over and over and over again doesn't make your body more disciplined. That's what keeps you stuck. So here's where things shifted. At some point, eating more isn't quitting, it's rebuilding. It's not overnight. It's not done recklessly, but it's done intentionally. So as I mentioned, in my salad, I started to add in a few more olives. I started to add in a little bit more feta cheese. I started to add in a sprinkle of these wonton strips, right? So it was just a little bit more calories. So now my salad, I added about 100 more calories to my salad. In my protein shake in the morning, I started to add in an additional fruit. All right. So that way it was just a little bit more. So it wasn't like these I was like going nuts out. It was like adding just like a little bit more. I call them accessories to my food. So it was like adding like a little like adding an extra cup of fruit to my protein shake. It was adding a few more accessories to my salad. It was adding in, an extra fat to my my dinner. So it's these little things that slowly gave me like 200 to 300 more calories a day, right? Because at some point, eating isn't about restriction. It's about, and not about like, what do I have to always give out, take away. It's about rebuilding. And right, like I talked about, it's not an overnight thing. And so over the past 2 years, I've gradually added about 800 to 1,000 calories in my day. Now, some of you just passed out, so hopefully someone was there to catch you and you didn't drive off the road. But here's the point, right? This is up, and I know that it really messed with my head, but it was a gradual process, right? And everything I told you that I gradually added wasn't like you're going to add like an extra pound of fat every day. It was just like little small things that I added. And over the course, and again, I've been doing this for 2 years. So over the first year really was a challenge. It took me a long time to find my equilibrium. But over the last year, I've lost about 10 pounds. And my body composition slowly started to change. It's not because I hacked anything. It's because my body finally had the calories it needed to support all the things I was trying to do. My energy came back. I'm not living off coffee. My lifts improved. My recovery was really what I focus on the most. I've really built in so many recovery mechanisms, and my stress stopped running the show. And that wasn't cheating the system. That wasn't a biohack. That was me respecting where my body was. And right now, moving into this year, I'm finally going to be in a build for the first time, God, in like a decade. I thought I was building muscle, but I was just maintaining what I had. And so now I'm going to be adding even more calories to where I am right now. And again, doing it with intention because strength, muscle, and resilience matter right now for me. And I know that in order to further change my body composition, and I'm going to be brutally honest, if the scale never, ever, ever moves, I'll be okay. I am looking more about changing my body composition. And so where you're like, what does that body composition mean? For many of you, the scale is the only way we were taught to measure anything. But for most of you, I know that you look in the mirror and you pick yourself apart. And you see the flab underneath your triceps. You see your belly. You see your legs. You see your butt. You see something that you're like, you become like such a like Karen to your body. And that's not going to change because you drop 2 pounds. That's going to change because you focus on body composition. And body composition comes from putting on some more muscle. And because the more muscle I have on my body, the more calories I will burn just sitting here listening to this podcast. And in order to put on muscle, I have to eat more food. Now, again, some of you guys just passed out or drove off the road. But that's how it works. You can't expect to live off of 1,200, 1,300 calories, lift like a beast, and be like, where are my biceps? Because it's not going to come. Sorry, not sorry. What's going to come is that I have to gradually increase my calories so that my body now has something to pull from. Your body has fuel, right? And then it's going to start to give you something. Is it going to start to give you something in a week? Oh, hell no. This is what I learned from when I was doing fitness competitions. There are women who are just naturally gifted, genetic freaks, that they could walk past the weight rack and the weight just like pops on them. And they're just like bulging biceps in like 2 to 3 weeks of intentional eating and working out. And then there are people like you and me who you could be in the gym for hours and hours and hours, and your muscles are like, what else you got? And it takes time. And you have to give it the time. You can't be in a rush. And so during my build phase, I don't really have a lot going on. And so I'm starting it in January, and my goal is to make it to June, at least May, where I'm just going heads down. I'm adding some more calories and I'm lifting like it's my job. And I'm not going to be expecting results in like week 3. I'm going to be like, what am I going to uncover in May? That's really what I'm doing right now. Just completely going heads down. And if this episode made you feel like, wow, she gets it, right? I'm sharing this with you because I want you to see that it's not about perfection. It's about progression. And, probably do another episode and probably 6 to 8 weeks just to tell you like how I'm feeling. Like right now, I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. But, I'm human. I might be like, what the hell did I sign up for? And, kick in the wall. Or I might be like, yeah, girl, this feels so good. I don't know. But I'm going in it with like, hey, let's see, right? I'm going into this with curiosity. And so if this episode made you feel like relieved and uncomfortable at the same time, that's normal, right? It just means that you're finally saying to yourself, like, I need to change. And I know that feeling very well because it's like, I felt that. I felt like something has to give here. This can't be my life, right? My life can't revolve around my workouts and my food. Like I want something more in my life. And so if this is your way out of the cycle, right? Especially if you feel like you're doing everything right and you're not getting anywhere. And if you're listening saying, okay, but where am I? Like, am I ready to jump into the build that you're talking about? Do I need to just increase my calories first and then hop into the build? I get you. So I created a quiz. It's called Is Your Metabolism Tired AF? And it'll help you figure out your phase so you can stop finally guessing. And it'll help you understand what your body needs more. Does it need more restoration? Does it need rebuilding? Does it need maintaining? Or can you really push right now to drop some fat? And this is not about guilt. It's not about shame. It's not about extremes. It's about getting clear as to where you need to start. And so I have the link in the show notes. And if you've been stuck doing the same thing and nothing to show for it, I see you. I was you. And there's a way forward. All right, Magic Makers, I will talk to you next week. And as always, if you have any questions or any ahas pop up, do me a favor, screenshot this episode and let me know what the aha is. And you can find me on any of the socials, Kim Jefferson Coach. All right, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.